Consumers want healthy, sustainable, good quality food. What's a fair deal for farmers? Farmers want fair price and a recognition of their work. So what is it actually that they both want is a sustainable food supply chain.
Farmers have actually had an increasingly less big share of the added value that is generated in the food supply chain. And I think we in the Commission are asking ourselves what we can do about it and whether there are any regulatory measures we can take in order to actually improve the environment for the farmers.
What you have in the EU supermarket sector are a small number of very powerful players, and they're familiar to all of us in terms of large supermarkets, household brands, and because they're so powerful, they are able to operate in their relationships with their suppliers in ways that we would all see as unethical and unfair. And so that can be things like cancelling your order at the last minute, changing the price that you're willing to pay on your invoice. None of us would expect that to happen in the supply chains that we buy from. We want our food to be ethically sourced. And so this directive seeks essentially to outlaw those practices.
We would also accompany this with an element of enforcement, so we would introduce certain minimum enforcement powers for national enforcement authorities that they should have, so that effective enforcement could be ensured. And last but not least, there is also an element of coordination and cooperation between the enforcement authorities.
We just hope that this issue, for instance, of market transparency, where information is provided, is done not only by the farmers but by all the other actors in the chain. This has to be a clear starting step.
We have been working on this for close to 15 years, and it's only now that the EU institutions have started to recognise that unfair trading practices are a problem and are starting to do something about it. So while we have problems with the way that the directive is drafted, our biggest priority now is to ensure that at the end of this process we have something that's actually passed into legislation that can start providing a fairer deal for farmers and workers.
With some, let's say, a long journey ahead still to make the food supply chain in Europe more sustainable, but one should certainly not forget that silo thinking is not the way to go. Coherence is very important, so if the Commission is coming up with tools that are welcome and seen as the right step in the right direction, such as UTPs proposal, we should not forget that there are other legislations that also need to be set towards the right direction, and we're not there yet, but there is room for improvement. So let's remain, hopeful.